I'm Shepard Fairey. We're in my gallery, Subliminal Projects, in Los Angeles, California. My history with New Deal goes back even further than New Deal. I was a big fan of Schmidt Sticks in the late 80s. I started skating in 84. Late 87 or early 88, I saw Andy Howell in one of the magazines. I think it was a wall ride off a jump ramp to board slide that was really sick from a contest. And then shortly after that, in the spring of 88, the Savannah Slamma contest, the second version, was happening. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, that's where I'm from, so it was a pretty short drive for me and a few of my friends to borrow a station wagon and head down to Savannah. I watched Andy skate. I really liked his skateboarding. I started paying close attention to what he was doing. Then I noticed that he'd drawn his own board graphic for Schmidt Sticks. And then the launch of New Deal happened. I was very excited because the positioning right out of the gate was New Deal is a skateboarder run and owned company. Knowing that Andy was involved as a creative and a skateboarder, I knew that it would be, let's say, avant-garde. New Deal embodied all the things I thought were exciting about skateboarding culturally. The way things were communicated and the way the videos worked. Useless Wooden Toys, what a great name. To take what's usually a disparaging commentary and turn it around and embrace it and say, yeah, well, look at what we're doing with these useless wooden toys. It all had an attitude of poking fun at the establishment, whether that was the broader square establishment or even the establishment within the skateboard industry. But saying, we're a little smarter, we're a step ahead, we're subverting the dominant paradigm, nod and a wink, and it just resonated with me. It was the perfect sensibility for where I was in my life, sort of skeptical of things, but also just liking to have fun. And skateboarding was the perfect outlet for me as a physical thing to just blow off steam, get out aggression, but also as a creative realm. Street skating is sort of a way of, once again, subverting the urban landscape and being creative with it in ways that people told you shouldn't be. I love the rebellious side of it, the democratic side of it. And for a company to be really embracing that, they were at the leading edge in New Deal. This piece was inspired by the early New Deal advertisements, which used black, white, and yellow. Everything had a spot yellow, which was very recognizable. And one of the icons for New Deal was a spray can. And then there was the Surgeon General's warning, which I addressed in this piece, slightly reworked. Skateboarding is dangerous because it promotes creativity at a young age. The idea that everyone else is just a slave to the status quo or to conformity, but people who can think for themselves and create for themselves are such a threat. That was right up my alley. The Surgeon General has determined that skateboarding and art in any form are hazardous to the health of our society because they promote creativity and individuality at a young age. Prolonged indulgence in these unacceptable activities can result in addiction and devastating amounts of enjoyment. That for me is, kind of an encapsulation of the ways skateboarders take things and subvert them in a witty, smart way. And I always loved what Andy did with that. So I was trying to find the perfect hybrid of my sensibility with my Obey icon face with New Deal. I do a lot of illustrations using a spray can because a spray can is a tool that is, essential to my art. And so, where there was overlap between what Andy had done for New Deal and what I do with my own work, I wanted to marry the two. This is an actual cut stencil that's glued down. The dots are a reference to Zipatone, which, before everybody used a computer for ads, you had to actually put the tone down. And all old tech stuff that you can Google. But anyway, it's just a tribute to that moment in skateboarding and how much it meant for me. I wouldn't have potentially used the spot colors I use in my work, red, black, and white, if I hadn't been inspired by both New Deal and then things like Russian constructivism and Barbara Kruger's work. But for sure, New Deal was a big part of that limited color palette. Make your low budget turn into an asset rather than a liability. Keep it simple. You know, the great thing about New Deal was when it launched, it was saying, hey, you know, the art side is really, really crucial. And that was something that had always been important within skateboarding, but somehow was sort of relegated to behind the curtain in a sense. Now being an artist within skateboarding is cool, you're out front about that. And so to take the evolution of the culture that really New Deal was pushing 30 years ago and look at where a lot of these artists are now, as well as younger artists who maybe the ripple effect is 2 generations deep, but they still were feeling the effects of what New Deal did. It's pretty amazing.